And I think that's all great, but I also can imagine that if I am a coder and what I get in the mail scares me and makes me feel like I need to get an answer quickly about something, and Chemours is just by nature taking a long time because that's the size, that's what happens with that size company, to get a response, or they're taking a long time because they're making some major shift and it changes everything for them. I can't get a hold of anybody there in the manufacturing side. And isn't that horribly frustrating when I could probably go to a smaller company and maybe get a direct line to the owner or the president and be able to get these questions I have answered and letters signed? I mean, isn't that better service to be able to go directly to somebody in a small company rather than having to go through so many layers in a larger company like Chemours?
I think, I think many cases, yes, Francesca, and I think ultimately that's what we have with the Teflon product line, though. So we have the small nimbleness and responsiveness from our team, the Intech Fluorogistx model, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what they've modeled a lot of their distribution after, is what we created.
Mhm.
So we have that, but at the same time, like what I was going to touch on is you can't forget about how much supply chain on the global basis and having some leverage and power in the supply chain, how important that is. And I've never really had the appreciation for that I have in recent years. And when there's been shortages of raw materials, and I used to always think, oh, it's any other time it happened, it was because there's one raw material called fluorspar, and that's what's used to make the base resins themselves. So there was some shortages of that two or three times during my career. And then so DuPont slash Chemours, all the other manufacturers couldn't make PTFE or FEP or whatever for periods of time. But what we've run into recently is things like raw materials and pigments, surfactants, flow agents, whatever it might be, like things as commoditized as one would think and easy to get and reliable to get, because that's how it always has been. Well, COVID threw all that into turmoil. And so
Mm-hmm.
things that were once very easy to get became allocated and limited and delayed and all these things that never happened before. And so it gave me an opportunity to see how a company like Chemours with a dedicated supply people that have extensive and lengthy relationships in the industry, how that can be a benefit to us getting materials that we can then get to our customers when there's limited raw materials that previously were in abundance. So it's really important.
That makes sense. So, like, these guys are big, they can get their first dibs or have more power when there is a shortage, because obviously you need to get them because they serve the most industries, the most customers.
Yeah, I mean
And
their
they're,
annual buy, they're
Yeah.
bigger fish than the pond than a small niche manufacturer who buys a couple 100 pounds of one pigment.
mm-hmm.
They're not going to get the same service.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah.
just how it works.
And you touched on something in the first part of your answer, Chris. I want to kick that to you. Is basically like the importance of, you said that Intech slash Fluorogistx has the nimbleness of the small company and that the model was set up that way. Can you
Mhm.
talk a little bit about that, Wolfie, about like what you two individuals and obviously everybody else on the Fluorogistx team brings to that is the benefit of the small business with all the benefits ideally of a
Oh, a
company
large
like
company. Yeah.
Chemours. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just the accessibility that we have. I mean, one we're very tenured folks here. I'm celebrating my 15th year, and Mike's been around longer than that. And I look at a lot of my customers. I mean, people who reach out to me on a regular basis, they have my cell phone. So I mean, my accessibility is great. But I think as a coding shop, like if you're concerned about that kind of stuff, like where do we sit in this ever-changing world? Is like reconfirm your reps, like reconfirm who are the people that get me the answers that I need. And you look at Fluorogistx and you look like, well, if I have a question about PFAS, I can start with Steve Bucci, or I can start with Mike, or start with Chris, and they'll take it from there. And or maybe sit down and do a business review or something like that. Like, let's talk about our business and how deep I am with my coding vendors, and does it make sense for me to you know utilize one over the other because they're getting me the information that I need. They're getting me the support that I need. I mean, I think that's really huge.
Yeah. Okay. So I hear you saying that it's basically your accessibility is the key part of that nimbleness and that small business feel that
Mhm.
Fluorogistx brings, along with obviously yours and Mike's combined experience is huge. You're saying that there are things these coders can do in this tumultuous time to make sure they're more secure. And I heard you saying that there's reconfirm your reps and key vendors, make sure all of that is right. Mike, what's another thing that coders can do to help themselves be steady when the ground's kind of crumbling?
I think another really key element of making sure that you can protect yourself in volatile times, on especially as it relates to supply, which is the lifeblood of their business, is making sure like they know for each job what coding they're using, which is what the stuff they're buying every day. But is there substitutes that they could easily get if that becomes severely delayed or not available anymore, or that color is obsolete or whatever it might be? Like, don't wait until it's a problem to look into it. And we've seen
Mm-hmm.
that all too much, that when somebody calls in an absolute panic because they need to use something else, but they haven't even begun the process of um,
Testing.
testing something else as an
Mhm.
alternative. Now it's a shitstorm, frankly.
Yeah, or they
So
haven't bridged that conversation with their customer, Mike. I mean, hey,
yeah,
look at what coatings do I apply that are at risk, and if I see some risky options, am I having that conversation with that customer to be like, hey, dude, man, we need to, you use, Xylan 1010 or whatever, and 950 AG 303, really similar, maybe that's something you should look into and start reconfirming it. And is there flexibility? Is the customer flexible so that we don't run into these potential outages that could be crippling.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So,
You know, the other thing too, Chris, is like I've had people ask me, like, here's the products I buy. Are these all ones that you always have? Are they big sellers or are these slow movers? Because that's another one. If something's a slow mover, we might be stuck where we just don't have much of it, or what we have might not be real have a lot of shelf life left.
yeah,
So like, it's always good to understand like, hey, I need that gray, but I also recognize that maybe I want to keep a little bit more of it, or to protect myself in the event that it's not available because it's a slow mover.
yeah. Well, what about even the people that are, doing the front end sales? I mean, are they familiar with all the coding offerings? I mean, are they up to speed on things, or do they, again, just really fall into that one, like, well, I really
Mm.
know the wood for portfolio, so that's all that I'm ever going to really recommend. Or, or are they just going by like, hey, it's always good. You always have your core codings that you do on a regular basis. But again, it's not a one size fits all. Like, do they know the breadth of offerings that are out there? And check in on the education as to where your people are, because we're finding out that it seems like some customers aren't really that comfortable with where their sales staff is and what they're recommending. So I think that's a good exercise.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. So review jobs and codings on a regular basis, I'm hearing. Make sure you know the competitive in-kind codings that they should be considered, and make sure you know who your key vendors are and your reps for all of your manufacturing and supplying. That's the best way to set yourself up for success as a coder.
I
I
think
think so.
it's a pretty good roadmap.
All
Yeah.
right. I mean, you guys are no strangers to providing tons of support, whether it's through volatile times or the steady as she goes. You're really there, and your perspective, I think, is very valuable to this industry. So I know that you do offer a new kind of remote support and in house training to coders that maybe could use your legacy knowledge. Mike, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is really just based off of what we had done in the past with the i3 training sessions, that we would take our knowledge, take it to some cool city and have a day and a half event where people could come in and enjoy themselves, but learn everything there was about products, markets, application, and how to grow your fluoropolymer business. So the new way we're approaching this training, this Teflon coating training, is to bring it to you. And what that does is allow us to really customize the topics to fit your needs. It could be heavy in the shop, lighter in the classroom, vice versa. You name the mix. will tell you the recipe. So it's been fun. Like we love doing this stuff. We've been doing for a number of years, and so it's for us to continue to kind of keep this going and help people run a better business. That's makes us feel good and helps us run a better business for ourselves. So yeah, we're excited about it.
Excellent. Chris, anything to add?
No, no, I just, we kind of, I mean, we enjoy it. It's a bond and a closeness that you can't even, achieve over the phone. I mean, it's an in-person type of thing. And I mean, we don't really have anything to hide. I mean, the better they are at their jobs and the more we can educate them about what we do, or, just maybe if I just gave you one little nugget when I was there, I mean, that might win me a job just because they were like, you know what, man, that guy came in here and he really helped us out on a couple of things that I was foggy about, and the rest of our company wasn't familiar with either. And he really knows what he's talking about, or just have a comfort level. And we really see it as a benefit. And I think, the Fluorogistx company sees it as a huge benefit too. Mike always thought it was a huge, huge factor in our business when we were doing I3 at Intech. And we really want to keep that going on. It's a game changer.
Excellent. All right. Well, speaking of game changers, we're at the end of our episode, and I wanted to change up a little bit and ask you, what is your dream game to watch on Thanksgiving, football wise?
Dream football matchup?
Yeah.
Well, ours are going to be different for sure.
They should be.
I would hope so.
Since I'm an Eagles fan and Mike's a Ravens fan.
Go ahead, Chris. What's yours?
I'll go first. Dream matchup. I mean, we just had it, yesterday.
I know we did.
But a Dallas Eagles, when both teams are good, it's never good when one team's bad and the other one's good, because it's just like kicking a sick man or something like that. So, but Dallas Eagles, 4 o'clock.
Good Eagles, good Dallas Cowboys. All right, Mike. What about you?
So I think there's something to be said about division rivals on a holiday. So there's a lot of good AFC matchups that the Ravens have, but I think I would probably go back to the standard Ravens Steelers matchup, because it's just one of those grudge matches that always seems to be fun, and I like our chances. I think they're soft, so I'll take them any day.
You don't want the even matchup. You want to win.
Yeah, I like the matchup. It'll be close, but I think we win.
He doesn't want the homecoming walkover where you bring some terrible team in and you're like, yeah, we're gonna win. I'm not worried. He wants He wants the game. And I tell you, that's a survival game. That Ravens Steelers is crazy.
Excellent.
What about you, Francesca? What do you have?
Oh gosh. I think
like, here comes the Westminster Dog Show.
Exactly. I was like, it's really tough with the the dog shows. I would gotta say the sporting group versus the non-working is really the best matchup I can think of.
She went dog show. Nice.
Nice.
That's the time filler between the first football game kickoff. You gotta watch the dog show.
Before the pregame.
Oh, well, all right, guys. Well, thanks so much for being here with us and, tuning in and learning all about Teflon's competition this time, as Mike and Chris so expertly navigated us through those very choppy waters. But we hope that you and yours, if you're hearing this in real time, have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. And, we'll be back next month with more Deliver More from Delaware. Bye, guys.
See you, everyone.